My name is James Lent. I'm a vice principal and a grade 5-6 teacher here at a rural elementary school in British Columbia. I'm here to tell you about a piece of educational technology that has greatly impacted me throughout my school career. I've had countless staff room discussions about this technology, and during my undergrad degree, I even had a professor who explained that this particular piece of technology is the only true innovation in teaching in the last 100 years. What am I talking about? The overhead projector. According to the Smithsonian Museum of American History, the overhead projector has been around for a long time. In fact, the first true overhead projector was built by a French optician in 1870. Later in the 19th century, magic lanterns became popular tools for entertaining audiences and, to a lesser extent, to educate students. Magic lanterns were large and unwieldy devices that required light sources such as oil lamps or candles to project images that were printed on glass slides. A real breakthrough came in 1962 when the company 3M developed an overhead projector that incorporated a Fresnel lens made out of plastic. This innovation reduced production costs and made overhead projectors affordable for businesses, government agencies, and most importantly, for schools. The widespread use of the overhead projector was also preceded by a world-changing event that occurred in 1957, the launch of the Soviet satellite Sputnik. In light of world conditions, it was decided that the education system in British Columbia was in need of an independent review. This led to the appointment of the Royal Commission on Education for the province of British Columbia. The commission was tasked with the investigation into the efficacy of the education system. The commission produced the Chant Report in 1960 that made recommendations for educational reform. The Chant Report did not make specific recommendations for the use of the overhead projector. Rather, it cautioned that the use of technology must be considered carefully to ensure it was educationally sound. It did, however, make strong recommendations for the reform of reading instruction. The Commission found that there was a large discrepancy between the best and the poorest readers in British Columbian schools, and concluded that this discrepancy was due to poor phonetics instruction. It was recommended that phonics be consistently taught across the grades with an emphasis on drill and practice. The Chant Report does not advocate for the use of the overhead projector. It does, however, create a climate in which educators would feel pressure to use a device that would allow for more efficient whole class instruction. The Chant Report also concluded that classrooms were overcrowded, but that class size was of lesser importance than the skill of the teacher. Teachers would have been pressured to improve results while dealing with crowded classrooms with a diversity of learners. These pressures would have made the overhead projector an attractive teaching tool. Using the overhead projector, the teacher could model phonetic analysis quickly and easily while the class watched. Moreover, the teacher could address a large class, make notes, and model reading and writing without turning his or her back on the students. It has been argued that the use of the overhead projector affords students the opportunity to discuss a piece of writing much more easily than traditional textbooks. Before the use of the overhead, the teacher would orally direct the class to a given page, a particular paragraph, and a specific line or word. With the overhead projector, the teacher simply creates a transparency of the text to be discussed and displays it on the screen. Many textbooks come with pre-made transparencies. This technique is also useful for displaying students' work for peer review. The class can watch as good writing, editing, and revising is modeled via the overhead. Presenting student work on the overhead is a teaching strategy that would be of great value to students who are confident in their abilities and enjoy the challenge of having their work publicly scrutinized before being given the chance for revision. As a student who struggled with reading and writing myself, I can tell you that this can be embarrassing and demoralizing. Even if it is done with the best of intentions, putting the struggling writer's work on public display for critique will teach the student more about fear and avoidance of writing than it will about perfecting the craft. Like most forms of educational technology, the overhead projector can facilitate teaching and save valuable classroom time. However, it can also contribute to a widening gap between successful students and our most vulnerable learners. This technology takes the teacher's focus away from individual students who might be struggling. As the teacher manages the overhead, it is easy to miss a student who has become lost or disengaged. While the overhead projector was touted as a technological innovation by many, its widespread use had unforeseen and undesirable consequences for modern pedagogy. It has been debated that print technology has isolated the author from the reader. When books are mass-produced, readers tend to adopt a view of the author as an unquestionable authority, and readers stop questioning the information that is being presented. The classroom use of the overhead projector has similar consequences. Teachers darken the room and turn on a projector. Information is projected to a screen. The teacher takes on the role of transmitter of knowledge rather than being an authority in his or her own right. The information that is being presented is often pre-prepared and merely displayed by the teacher rather than discussed and questioned. In a darkened classroom, the teacher becomes less of an authority. His knowledge from unknown and unquestionable source is illuminated, magnified, and displayed on a screen by the projector for all to see. This scene played out countless times in my various classrooms when I was a student. I remember viewing the overhead projector as an object of reverence. As students, we were not allowed to touch the machine. When the teacher wanted to use the overhead, we had to move our desks to make room for the bulky trolley upon which the projector sat. The technology seemed to usurp the teacher and even the students to assume the most prominent position in the classroom. Student comfort, classroom lighting, and even our physical presence in the class were all of less importance than the position and operation of this technology. I also remember nervous laughter in the staff room when a colleague made a joke about walking down the hall at the end of the year and hearing all the teachers winding the rolls on their overhead projectors back to the beginning of the school year. If we're honest, one of the strengths of the overhead projector is that teachers have the ability to save work with relative ease, whereas a blackboard has limited space on which one can write before it needs to be erased. An overhead projector is limited only by the number of transparencies one has. Teachers have the ability to save a transparency from one lesson and review it or add to it in a subsequent lesson. This is similar to print culture in that people can work with abstract thoughts because they no longer have to spend so much of their mental energy remembering information as it has been recorded and can be looked up later. Just as print allows humans more intellectual freedom, the overhead projector allows students and teachers the freedom to build upon concepts and ideas that have their roots in previous classes. Rather than using time and energy trying to recall what was worked on in previous class, the teacher can simply display the transparency and carry on where the class left off. One caveat, reusing transparencies and lessons from previous classes can be a pedagogical trap as it becomes easier to rely on the same tired resources year after year. With any technology, there are many uses and advantages, as well as drawbacks and negative consequences. As educators, we have a moral imperative to think critically about the technology we are using and the impacts that technology has on our classroom, our students, and on ourselves. As for my professor's grandiose remark, the overhead projector has had an impact on the way students consume and produce text over the last 100 years. But as was stated in the Chant report, the most profound influence on student learning is that of a good teacher.